However, at that moment, the zombie king on the moon kicked the aircraft carrier with great force, then simultaneously propelled himself back to Earth. The aircraft carrier and the zombie king, filled with rage, were heading right towards Zombie. Seeing this, Zombie directly jumped on the spot, rushing towards the zombie king mid-flight. But at this moment, the zombie king suddenly entered the aircraft carrier's main inner deck and began to damage the nuclear reactor. Just as Zombie had just arrived at the aircraft carrier, a huge explosion instantly spread across the continent's sky. Seeing this, Dawn and the others screamed for help. However, as the mushroom clouds slowly dissipated in the sky, Zombie landed perfectly unscathed on a battleship, while the zombie king roughly landed on a different ship across the water. This damage isn't even enough to tickle me. Hearing this, the zombie king was completely speechless and then began to gather all his strength. Next, his arms quickly lengthened and struck towards Zombie. In just an instant, Zombie was smashed onto a high-rise building back in the city. Since neither of us can do anything about the other, why don't we just cooperate and destroy the world together? Meanwhile, the chief was fearfully spectating with Blackie and Go. We better run. I know your king is very strong after transforming, but continuing to fight like this is no solution. However, before he could finish speaking, Blackie beside him interrupted. Who said our king can only transform once? Hearing this, the chief was shocked. He hadn't expected Zombie to have a third form. The scene shifts back to Zombie, who's standing up from the rubble. Destroying the world or anything of the sort, I'm not interested. Only weaklings think about destroying the world every day. The zombie king was speechless upon hearing this. But then, Zombie transformed again. His originally dull skin began to peel off slowly, and with a roar, Zombie had turned into a fair-skinned young man. What the heck did he just do? Meanwhile, Go also slapped the chief's face hard. Look at that. This is our king's true power. When the chief saw the fair-skinned young man on the high-rise, he was utterly incredulous. Many were commenting about his new transformation, that he now looks completely different from his opponent, that he looks human, and that he is even stronger than before. Just then, it began to rain around them. Seeing Zombie's transformation, the zombie king was bewildered. Are you a human or a zombie? It charged forward, but just as its fist was about to hit Zombie's face, the space around them suddenly changed. The raindrops that had been falling now seemed to stop midair. At that moment, Zombie casually raised his hand. The next second, the zombie king's body was instantly split into pieces, and the raindrops were also reversed back. Not only that, even Violet and the others began floating in the air, and even various fish in the sea were affected, as if gravity was reversed. At this point, only half of the zombie king's body remained, showing a face of fear. He had not expected such a huge gap between himself and Zombie. I am your daddy. Just then, a giant cyclone appeared in the sky. Dawn looked on in disbelief at this scene. Meanwhile, Violet and Zhang Lanqi also fell from the sky. Zombie's spell had ended. The gravity around them returned to normal. Violet was dumbfounded. Could this still be the power of a mere zombie? Suddenly, a 100-ton whale heavily fell onto a high-rise building. Seeing this, Professor Jamie was also shocked. It was his first time seeing such a zombie. However, the divided zombie king still refused to admit defeat. He leaped up from the ground and loudly shouted, "Regeneration!" His separated body began to reassemble. As the zombie king, I am an unkillable life form. You can't do anything about me. Zombie raised his hand again, and with a swipe, he pulled the zombie king to him with an imperceptible force. He then grabbed the zombie king by the neck. Looking at the zombie king with disdain, you have a misunderstanding about death. Do you think you need to physically destroy someone for them to die? Hearing this, the zombie king was visibly stunned. Then before he could argue, the next second, he saw Zombie's terrifying eyes. Instantly, the king's consciousness was transported to a strange environment. At this moment, numerous giant spaceships appeared above Earth, and on one of the main ships, a humanoid in mech armor commanded, and countless mech warriors began to advance towards Earth. The zombie king recognized these figures as the Ancient Ones. The person standing in the way of these Ancient Ones was Zombie, but in a form that is yet to be seen. Of the 6 times human civilization has ended, this will be the last. The Ancient Ones were waging war against Zombie so that he would no longer end humanity one more time. The next second, all their spaceships were instantly engulfed in flames. Zombie had wreaked havoc on the fleet in space. The scene returns to the present, where the zombie king is in agony. After a while, there was no more movement from the zombie king in Zombie's hand. Meanwhile, Violet and the others watching from afar still did not know what had happened. They only saw that after Zombie grabbed the zombie king by the neck, he instantly stopped moving. At that moment, Zombie suddenly loosened his grip, and the zombie king fell straight from the rooftop. After a loud bang, the zombie king was left unconscious. Seeing this, the chief was in utter disbelief. He must have been scared into losing consciousness by His Majesty's third form. Meanwhile, Professor Jamie hadn't expected the zombie king he had so diligently researched to be scared to death just like that. Brother Faye, we better run now, or it'll be too late. But before he could finish speaking, Zombie had already arrived by their side. We've never shown ourselves before. How did it know we were here? Seeing Zombie's displeased face, the green-haired subordinate was immediately scared into paralysis on the ground. Are you going to surrender, or do you want to go down and see the zombie king? The group immediately raised their hands to surrender. Although Professor Professor Jamie was reluctant. At this moment, he could only grit his teeth and give up resistance. And so, the harmful Professor Jamie was finally captured by the Beyonders Academy. After everything was settled, Dawn and Violet saw Zombie squatting there, lost in thought. It turned out that Zombie had reverted to his original form. Violet asked Dawn to go over and talk to him, even promising her the position of vice president if she succeeded. Violet ushered her forward, then Dawn reluctantly approached. With no choice left, Dawn steeled herself and greeted Zombie. Just then, Zombie suddenly stood up, which startled Dawn. However, Zombie simply stated that he still wanted an indestructible piece of clothing. Relieved, Dawn finally relaxed, as Zombie seemed completely harmless now. Do you remember what just happened? My memory of it is a bit fuzzy, but I know I've probably beaten up many weirdos like that before. The scene shifts to a prisoner transport convoy that contained Professor Jamie and his subordinate. Zombie, I must acquire your genes to create a being even more powerful than you. Zombie's wish had finally come true, providing not only a peaceful and happy life for his people, but also a human military escort. It turned out that ever since Professor Jamie had been captured by Zombie, the humans had appointed him as a president of a society and granted him the authority to manage a city. However, Zombie requested to take over the city of H, where they had captured Professor Jamie. That godforsaken barren land? What good is there? Zombie insisted on his choice and promised to manage H City well. Thus, Zombie not only became a president, but was also appointed to manage H City. The city inspectors were furious upon hearing this news, that there were many good cities to manage, but Zombie instead chose a deserted one. Violet also had a headache, unable to understand what Zombie was thinking. Apparently, Zombie wanted H City because it still housed thousands of citizens. To expedite their relocation, Zombie had the society's military provide protection along the streets. At that moment, from a high-rise, Zombie watched his citizens with satisfaction. Blackie approached and reported, "My king, according to your orders, all the citizens have been relocated. Now they finally have a home." Suddenly, the human legions began to drill in the city. "Mommy, they aren't going to shoot us with those fiery weapons, are they? You are citizens under President Zombie. From now on, you are the ones we are sworn to protect. Are these people crazy or something?" Meanwhile, on the rooftop, Zombie's underlings were also thrilled, never expecting that they would have their own city. Sometimes, the continuity of a race doesn't necessarily have to rely on war. After saying this, he left the rooftop without looking back. Varmint has been hanging for a few months now. Zombie waved his hand, "Just let him keep hanging." Poor Varmint, hanging on the city hall building, said with a pitiful face, "My king, I was wrong. I won't dare again. I'm almost dried up into a mummy. Please, let me down. I promise I won't do it again." Dawn and Violet were having a sparring match to test out Dawn's new capabilities. Violet did not expect that the mutated Dawn would have such an incredibly high combat power, with just a simple collision causing her serious internal injuries. "Senior Violet, I haven't even used my full strength yet." Hearing this, Violet could no longer bear it and instantly teleported behind Dawn. But just then, Dawn's head suddenly made a 180-degree spin, startling Violet, who was about to make a sneak attack. Immediately, Violet hastily did a back handstand, supporting herself with her hands on the ground. "Are you still human?" However, she hadn't finished speaking. Dawn had already turned around, raising her Gatling gun. Seeing this, Violet quickly retreated. The rattling sound of the Gatling gun followed. Dawn was laughing maniacally. "Senior Violet, don't you think I can also take the position of president now?" Hearing this, Violet was instantly enraged. She pushed off with her feet, rushing towards Dawn like a bullet. With a forceful slash of her blade, Dawn's Gatling gun instantly became scrap metal. "Is that all you've got, Senior?" But before she could finish, Violet had already cleaved her in two. But Violet was shocked. Why didn't she dodge? However, the Dawn that had been split in half was not scared, but instead laughed out loud. Then, a bizarre scene occurred, as the body that had been cleaved in two began to slowly regenerate. Before long, Dawn stood up as if nothing had happened. "What on earth has Zombie done to Dawn? How about it? With my current strength, being president shouldn't be a problem." After saying that, she suddenly threw a punch at Violet. With a boom, Violet was instantly slammed against the wall, losing her ability to fight. Seeing Violet defeated, Dawn reverted back to her human form. "Senior Violet, are you okay? Did I go too hard just now? Tell me, did you turn into a zombie after Zombie bit you? Didn't we check in the lab yesterday? All my cells are perfectly normal." "Then what's with the 360-degree head turn and your body's regenerative abilities?" "I can fully control my transformations, and when I'm feeling down, I can inject a stimulant to enhance it without any side effects." Violet paused, deep in thought. Then she rushed out of the arena. After witnessing Dawn's transformation abilities, Violet immediately flew to H City non-stop. At that moment, inside the city hall, Zombie was assigning tasks to his underlings. First was the financial authority of H City, and Zombie thought of Blackie first. "From today, you are the director of the treasury." As soon as he finished speaking, the door of the meeting room was suddenly banged open. Seeing the breathless Violet, Zombie was happy to see her. "Oh, it's Violet. What brings you here?" However, before he could finish, Violet rushed over. Just as Zombie looked bewildered, Violet suddenly opened his mouth and forcefully made Zombie bite her. Violet then abruptly left the meeting hall without looking back. She had just left left the city hall when her assistant hurriedly came up to remind her, "President Violet, you are too reckless. Have you forgotten that zombie can control people's minds? What if he makes you do something unspeakable?" However, Violet not only did not regret her actions to possess such power, "Even if he makes me sing and dance to rap, I'm fine with it." Meanwhile, Zombie was still bewildered. Nevertheless, under his meticulous planning, H-City was finally on the right track. While the citizens were living and working in peace and contentment, they also developed various shops, such as a hair salon run by zombies, a zombie real estate company, and even a zombie driving school. However, getting a driver's license was still a bit difficult for zombies. At this moment, Zombie looked at his city with a sense of relief. His dream of many years had finally come true. But what he didn't know was that a bigger crisis was quietly approaching. A one-eyed woman was studying Zombie's information. "I really don't understand why the Beyonders Academy would choose someone like him as president. Inspector Chen, I heard that this zombie is actually a zombie. We've seen them slander each other in their academies before. Although I don't believe they would let a zombie be president, I really don't like this zombie. We'll know what this zombie is all about once we go to H-City." Over an iceberg in the North Pole, a helicopter rattled through. Moreover, humans also sent a giant industrial ship. Soon, the expedition team arrived at their destination. "I heard that an ancient body was suspected to have been found here. The body was buried under 500 meters of ice. If we can extract her completely, it would truly be a great discovery." With the help of the crane, the body was soon lifted up. As an archaeologist, it was also his first time discovering such an existence. As the crane slowly pulled the ice block from the ground, a faintly visible body finally emerged in front of everyone. From the appearance, it seemed to be a young girl. Just as Professor Strange was shocked by this discovery, his assistant next to him was suddenly muffled by someone, who then bit his neck. Seeing this, the professor was startled, but before he could react, he was knocked down by another person. It turned out that the attackers were a mysterious organization, and their target was the body encased in ice. The leader of the group used an ice pick to break the ice block. The previously desiccated body now seemed to regain its vitality. Seeing this, a vampire nearby quickly draped a coat over her. They knelt before the woman. "All hail the Blood Queen. May our forever queen remain eternally youthful." "Is that fool named Zombie still alive?" "My queen, not only is Zombie still alive, but he is also thriving. I remember after he destroyed the last human civilization, he is now mixing with humans again. If you weren't around, I might be a bit lonely. This time I definitely won't lose to you again, Zombie." Zombie had been leisurely drinking tea in H-City when he was suddenly summoned urgently to the Academy's headquarters by Violet. This was because a strange incident had occurred at the headquarters. A member of the exploration team in the North Pole had suddenly mutated and killed all the team members. Seeing this scene, Violet and Zhang Lanqi were also baffled. This guy didn't seem like a zombie. With no other options, they had to find Zombie, their so-called professional. Soon, Zombie arrived at the headquarters, but just as he entered, he was startled by the sight before him, because not a single person here was normal. "I am President Ing of the Iron Club Academy. I heard you are the one who captured Professor Jamie." Upon hearing this, Zombie immediately stepped forward to shake his hand, affirming that was correct. But just as they had parted, President Ing sneered, "He's just a small fry, not worth my effort." But just when the other presidents thought Zombie was weak, the Stainless Steel Academy chief alone hid in a corner. "If I had known he was here, I would have stayed rotten at home." The scene shifts back to Zombie, who by now had arrived at the laboratory. However, when it comes to identifying species, Zombie was clearly unsure. But when he saw the two holes on the person's neck, long-sealed memories suddenly surged forth. "How is it? Did you notice anything?" Just then, the research scientist suddenly let out a scream. But when he saw Zombie's face, he immediately became docile. It turned out that Zombie had already switched to his second form. "Interesting. I didn't expect it to be the Blood Tribe." A terrifying aura began to burst from around him. In an instant, Zhang Lanqi and the others were all blown away. "I thought this species was supposed to be extinct." His terrifying aura blasting many presidents away, particularly the Iron Club president, who was quite shaken. While everyone was still baffled, Zombie suddenly laughed. "Interesting. I thought I had exterminated the vampires 1,000 years ago." He grabbed the researcher and demanded, "Come on, tell me where that little red who likes to poison me is now." But having just turned into a vampire, he had no idea of the whereabouts of the Blood Queen. Unable to get the information he wanted, Zombie then reverted to his original form. At this moment, inside the hall, the Iron Club president still didn't believe that the recent chaos was caused by Zombie. Only the Stainless Steel chief, hiding on the side. "I really should have just stayed home." Just then, Zombie finally walked out of the room. Seeing this, Violet and the others quickly approached. "Did you find anything special? It's best if you all be more careful these next few days." Having said that, he began to furrow his brow and stood motionless. Seeing this, Violet and Dawn felt something was amiss. But the next second, Zombie scratched his head. "I've already forgotten what happened just now." Meanwhile, next to a large villa on the other side, in a small alley covered with cobwebs, the current Blood Queen looked utterly speechless. Just then, a coin suddenly clinked to the ground beside them. It turned out that a local had thought they were beggars and generously gave them $1. Seeing this, the male vampire, Lan Ling, immediately lit up and picked up up the money. I say, you've all turned out like this. Why did you wake me up? Before she could finish speaking, the girl beside her burst into tears. Your Majesty, do you know how we have spent these 1,000 years? After your great battle with Zombie and your loss, we vampires no longer had a place to stand. We had to play dead to escape his clutches. From that moment, we started to hide from both humans and zombies. We haven't left this alley all this time. Upon hearing this, the Blood Queen instantly became furious that the vampires had ended up in such a dire state. Even if you summon me, it's useless, because I simply cannot defeat Zombie in this state. Your Majesty, the reason we woke you is because we have obtained an important piece of information. We have discovered a special human who might be able to help you defeat Zombie. That's right, that person might bring us hope. Hearing this, the Blood Queen's interest was piqued. Who is it? Lan Ling Men pulled out a wanted poster from his chest. This person was Professor Jamie, the creator of the recent Zombie King. However, at this moment, Professor Jamie was still locked in a prison. Why don't you just deal with him directly? We can't kill him yet. Not only has he planted many undercover agents among us, but there's also a lot of research data we haven't found yet. What if that guy escapes? However, before he could finish, the Iron Club president burst into laughter. Impossible, since it was you, President Zombie, who captured him. I'll take you to see. In no time, they arrived at a deserted valley via helicopter. Professor Jamie is detained in this prison, 3,000 meters underground. Even if we take the elevator down, it will take at least 30 minutes. As for security, it goes without saying, not only are there high-tech weapons, but each level is also guarded by a highly skilled president. With such security, even if Professor Jamie had extraordinary abilities, he couldn't escape. Moreover, we've attached a huge detonating cord to him. If anyone approaches him, the detonator will explode immediately. Even if a god descends, all he can bring back is a corpse. Hearing this, Zombie broke into a cold sweat, feeling that human methods were too cruel. He then turned around, saying he had other matters to attend to, and left. Meanwhile, in a small alley, when the Blood Queen saw their conversation through a live CCTV footage on a tablet, she suddenly felt a chill run down her spine. The scene returns to the prison. Your little boyfriend is probably going to be in trouble soon. As far as I know, the Stainless Steel Chief has informed Inspector Chen, saying that President Zombie has even established a city for zombies. Hearing this, Violet was stunned, and then asked him why he was telling her all this. The Iron Club president said he had no interest if he was a zombie or not because, in his eyes, only the strong catch his attention. Meanwhile, Zombie was happily strolling around the streets of a human city. In the underground prison, Professor Jamie was pondering something. Just then, a meal delivery staff pushed in the cart. We're done for. We're going to die. However, Professor Jamie laughed. Zombie, I must obtain your genes. Brother Faye, what are you talking about? Aren't we about to be executed? Don't worry, they won't execute me until they get my research. They won't lay a hand on us. Plus, I had already hidden the documents in a place no one knows about before I was captured. Zombie is too powerful. Even if we get his genes, we can't create something that will defeat him. We need a strong body to serve as a vessel. Then I can create an even more powerful being. Brother Faye, we're trapped here. We are just ordinary people. How could we escape? Hearing this, Professor Jamie suddenly fell silent. Soon after, the staff brought in the meal delivery robot. Surprisingly, Professor Jamie didn't resist but cooperated and ate the food delivered by the robot. Why is Brother Faye suddenly so obedient? It turned out, the meal delivery worker was actually his inside man, and the goal this time was to plant a wiretap in his mouth. Where's the Zombie King's body being held? It's kept in a lab on the 200th floor, and there are 2 chiefs guarding that lab. From now on, we can proceed according to my previous plan. Back at the human city where Zombie was having a nice stroll, his phone suddenly started ringing. It was Violet who had called him right after she got the news. She informed Zombie that because of the Stainless Steel Chief's snitching, Inspector Chen was already on her way to H City. If she finds out that what the Stainless Steel Chief said is true, then his days as president are numbered. Hearing this, Zombie instantly broke out in a cold sweat. Would she believe me if I said I was a human? Don't think I don't know what those things in your city are. With that, she hung up the phone. Zombie was truly panicked. But just then, a nearby cosmetics store suddenly caught his eye. Outside the H City government building, countless trucks fell from the sky. All makeup supplies Zombie bought from the neighboring city. When Zombie told Blackie about the seriousness of the situation, Blackie immediately had to go notify the leaders of each district to come and pick up the makeup supplies. Soon, the underlings from each district took the trucks back. Will makeup really work? Blackie said he wasn't sure either, but since it was arranged by the king, there must be a reason. In this way, zombies from all regions began to take action. At that time, a zombie mom came with her son to pick up makeup supplies. Her son, watching his mother's strange actions, also curiously said he wanted to try. However, when his mother turned around, he was almost scared silly. This wasn't just makeup, it was like changing faces. Soon, all the residents had completed their makeup tasks. Afterwards, when Fur and Lang returned to the office to report back, they were stunned by the sight of the well-made-up faces. You guys did that too fast. Are you sure looking like that will be effective? What about us? With no other options, Blackie had them temporarily disguised as pets. Oddly, they waited at the airport for a long time, but didn't spot Inspector Chen. As it turned out, out. Inspector Chen had anticipated that her movements might be leaked, so she took a train to H City with her subordinates. Why does Inspector Chen dislike Zombie? A colleague replied that Inspector Chen despised cowardly and timid people and, except for the department head, she disliked everyone. There's no need to whisper behind my back. What if I am biased? Since the department head delegated authority, any Tom or Harry can become a president now. In my heart, only someone like the department head can lead humanity to a more prosperous future. Meanwhile, Blackie, completely unaware, was still waiting in vain at the airport. Strange, wasn't Inspector Chen supposed to inspect today? Why hasn't she arrived yet? Meanwhile, two of Inspector Chen's subordinates had started surveying the city's residents. One first visited a convenience store, only to find that it sold exclusively egg-based products. When he asked the owner why that was the case, the owner appeared nervous and shook his head vigorously, claiming he could not see nor hear him. The other one then approached a passerby for an interview. However, just then, the person's arm suddenly fell off onto the ground. Seeing this, the investigator was dumbfounded and expressed concern in a panic. The person picked up the arm from the ground and fled. Before fleeing, he explained that the arm was just his prosthetic. This left everyone dumbfounded. Is there not a single normal person in H City? Has Zombie actually built a city of lunatics? Record everything. All of this will be used as evidence to remove President Zombie. The scene shifts back to the city hall, where Zombie is seen squatting and mumbling unintelligibly. What's going on? Why has the king turned into this? President Zombie seems to have been talking nonsense and trembling ever since he had breakfast. Hearing this, Ago was startled and immediately grabbed the soldier. Tell me, what did you feed the king? The soldier, frightened by Ago's action, quickly explained that he had only made a dish of chili stir-fried eggs for President Zombie. Upon hearing this, Ago immediately broke out in a cold sweat. It turns out, Zombie can't eat chili peppers because they make him abnormally excited, keeping him in his second form, and this state can last for a month. Meanwhile, Blackie, who was still waiting anxiously at the airport, suddenly received a call from Ago. When he learned that the king had accidentally eaten chili peppers, he was horrified. The king isn't going to slaughter the inspection team, is he? Blackie frowned. If something like that happens, we might not be able to stay in this city anymore. The scene switches back to Inspector Chen and her team, who are still searching for evidence. Just then, a heavy truck suddenly fell from the sky. With a boom, the truck smashed right in front of them. Before they could react, Zombie suddenly descended from the sky and with another crash, stomped the truck into scrap metal. Seeing this, Inspector Chen and her team were dumbfounded. What just happened? At that moment, Zombie suddenly smiled mischievously. Inspector Chen, right? Allow me to give you a tour. At this point, the two assistants were stunned, wondering what had just happened. As the three regained their senses, they looked at Zombie, completely confused. Who are you? Zombie responded with a wicked smile. Forgotten me so soon? I am the very Zombie you are looking for. Hearing this, the group was stunned on the spot. The Zombie on record wasn't supposed to be like this. At that moment, Zombie jumped down and explained that he had merely taken off his mask. He snapped his fingers. Inspector Chen, you've come a long way, so I've prepared some gifts for you. Please accept them. As soon as he finished speaking, the residents started presenting their specialty stir-fried eggs. Rest assured, we are law-abiding good citizens. We never eat people. After saying this, Zombie picked up Inspector Chen. Now that the gifts are received, let me give you a proper tour. With a boom, Zombie jumped up and flew into the sky. In just a moment, they had gotten higher than the clouds. Seeing this, the two assistants were bewildered. Once they regained their senses, they hurriedly stopped a taxi to follow. Zombie slowly fell and landed down onto the tallest building in the city center. Take a look. This is the H city that I meticulously built. This city is over 2 million square meters in area and still developing. We have not only listed companies, but have also solved many people's employment issues. Just in taxes, we can contribute billions each year. Next, let me show you the law and order. As he spoke, Zombie dragged Inspector Chen to the middle of the road. At that moment, a bus driving by couldn't stop in time. Just as it was about to hit Zombie, he kicked the bus's bumper. The bus went flying and became embedded straight into the high-rise. Meanwhile, Blackie, who was waiting at the airport, noticed the commotion and quickly dashed to rescue the driver. However, the two assistants who had just arrived were dumbfounded. As for Inspector Chen herself, she was so shocked by Zombie's series of actions that her jaw dropped. Don't worry, that driver won't die. Every one of my subordinates is extremely skilled and won't let any citizen die. After finishing his speech, he tossed Inspector Chen forward. The two assistants rushed to support her. I know why you, Inspector Chen, are here. I will let you return safely this time. No matter what happens next, there's one thing I want to tell you. This city is mine, and no one can stop me. For a moment, the entire street was eerily quiet. Maybe we should just go back. Yeah, let's get out of here. This guy looks like trouble. For a moment, I almost thought he was the department head. Who the hell said Zombie was timid and weak? I'm going to have their head when I get back. Hurry back. While I haven't changed my mind, I recognize your ability to manage the city, but that doesn't mean you qualify to be the president. A president needs not only managerial skills, but also sufficient combat capability. I have seen your city management skills, but I haven't seen your ability to protect the city. At this, Blackie and the others' faces turned pale. Just as Inspector Chen was about to continue, they rushed up to cover her mouth mouth, but their attempt was in vain. Zombie turned around. So, you want to see my real strength, huh? Hearing this, Blackie and the others were terrified on the spot. It's over, it's over. Soon after, they arrived at a nearby beach. Why do I have a bad feeling about this? Right now, Zombie was silently staring at the sea. Why have you brought us here? Before she could finish her sentence, she saw the terrifying reflection of Zombie in the sea. Go leaned in. If something happens later, you're on your own. Hearing this, Inspector Chin looked completely baffled. Just then, an assistant suddenly noticed that the stones around them were starting to float. Shortly after, more and more sand and rocks began to rise around Zombie. The next second, Zombie's third form was fully revealed to everyone. Seeing this, the trio of inspectors were totally shocked. At that moment, Zombie jumped on the spot, and his tremendous force sent Inspector Chin tumbling face first into the dirt. By the time they recovered, Zombie had already disappeared. Ago pulled out a telescope and placed it in front of them. Curious, Inspector Chin looked through it, and her face turned white with fright. From a distance of 1.3 billion kilometers away on Saturn, she shockingly saw Zombie looking up at her. This is too absurd. Is your president even human? While they were still in shock, Zombie on Saturn began to gather strength again. He clenched his right fist and stared determinedly towards Earth. The next second, Zombie violently swung his fist through the air. Seeing this, Ago and the others' faces drastically changed, because Zombie's punch had just punched a hole through the ocean. Instantly, a tsunami thousands of meters high headed towards the city. Ago quickly positioned himself in front of everyone. Meanwhile, far away at the headquarters, Dawn and others also felt the tremor. When they saw the tsunami outside the city, they were shocked and immediately activated the Level 1 defense protocol. Despite their efforts, they couldn't hold back the raging tsunami. Suddenly, another loud noise came from the seaside. It was Zombie jumping back from Saturn. How about that? Now you see my strength. Am I qualified enough to protect my citizens? Inspector Chin was completely shocked, and then inexplicably, Blackie and the others put her in a taxi. It took them a while to regain their senses. This zombie is simply not human. Watching the slowly departing taxi, they won't take back the city, will they? Blackie thought for a moment. I don't think so anymore. Inspector Chin remained in a state of mental disarray. As for H City, managed by Zombie, it was naturally preserved. Meanwhile, inside the prison of Professor Jamie, several people were discussing over a corpse in the laboratory. Their subject of discussion was the Zombie King, who was scared to death by Zombie. But what they didn't notice was that a researcher nearby was secretly mixing something. This researcher was actually an insider placed in the prison by Professor Jamie. At this moment, he was following Professor Jamie's instructions to prepare an antidote. Professor Jamie knew that the body of the Zombie King was still there, so now by injecting this concoction into its body, it would surely awaken it. Just as the guard was about to go out on patrol, the insider suddenly plunged the syringe in his hand into the Zombie King. Seeing this, the guard immediately became enraged and slammed the insider against the wall with a bang. What did you just do to that corpse? Before he could finish speaking, the Zombie King's eyes suddenly snapped open, followed by a loud, explosive noise. This sound immediately caught the attention of the Iron Club president. What's going on? What just happened? The alarms throughout the prison also began to sound. The Zombie King, previously frightened to death, was now resurrected. Kill all the guards here and get me out. I will make you stronger than Zombie. On a civilian plane in the sky, someone suddenly kicked open the cabin door. Then someone inside the plane, holding a gun. Nobody move. As long as you do as you're told, I won't hurt anyone. Following the hijacker's orders, the plane flew towards the prison. Just then, the Blood Queen appeared at the cabin door. Your Majesty, they've rigged Professor Jamie with a self-destruct mechanism. Should we make a detailed plan? No need. The petty tricks of humans are no challenge for me. She led her followers to leap from 10,000 meters high. But just as they were nearing the prison entrance, fortunately, the Iron Club president reacted promptly and quickly organized everyone for defense. But these ordinary weapons were utterly ineffective against the vampires. Don't panic, everyone. We still have 30 presidents here. They can't break through. Indeed, as the commotion on the top floor grew, the stainless steel chief and the chief, located on the 500th underground floor, instantly reacted. However, these underlings are still somewhat lacking in dealing with the Blood Queen. Meanwhile, on the 3000th underground floor, a guard was blown into the wall as the newly awakened Zombie King was preparing to leave the place. But at that moment, Professor Jamie used a communicator to tell him, "Help me escape, and I can help you defeat Zombie. I want to kill both you and Zombie." Professor Jamie chuckled. "You were created by me. I can let you live if I want you to live, but if I want you to die, you definitely won't survive." The Zombie King was utterly panicked, especially since it was indeed Professor Jamie who had revived him just moments ago. "Don't worry, I won't let you die. As long as you help me fulfill my dream, I will end my life in front of you. You humans are scarier than us zombies when you go mad. What do you need me to do? It's simple. Help me get out, and I promise to make you as strong as Zombie." Meanwhile, the three major presidents of the prison hurriedly rushed up. When they saw that the intruder was a woman, they were momentarily stunned. "Who are you people? Why have you come here?" The Blood Queen stepped forward. "I give you two choices. Either hand over Professor Jamie, and I will leave you unharmed, or else." However, before she could finish her sentence, the Iron Club president could not hold back back and charged at her. Soon after, the chief and the stainless steel chief also took the opportunity to attack from the side. But with a loud boom, the chief was left with only one arm, lying on the ground with the others. What just happened? Just then, the guards finally arrived. Facing human weaponry, the Blood Queen showed no intention of dodging. The sound of machine gun fire erupted, but the bullets could not harm the Blood Queen, not even when they hit her. The bullets hitting her eyeballs had no effect at all. At that moment, one of her subordinates suddenly raised a hand towards the guards, and with a loud boom, all the guards were instantly engulfed in flames. Meanwhile, at the 3000th underground level, Professor Jamie had already been rescued. Wasn't it supposed to explode upon touch? Why are we fine? There's a 2-second window after the power is cut. It's ridiculous to think such a defective product could hold me. Escorted by the Zombie King, they walked out of the prison. He's already so strong. Brother Faye, do we continue to make him stronger? I'm worried something might go wrong. There's no choice. There's no better vessel than him in this world. Just as they were preparing to evacuate, the Zombie King suddenly froze because the guards outside had somehow been wiped out. Who did this? Just then, the Blood Queen suddenly descended from the sky. Greetings, Professor Jamie. This creature, which cannot even defeat Zombie's second form, is not worthy of being your vessel. Hearing this, the Zombie King was taken aback and was about to step forward to teach her a lesson. Instead of wasting it on that useless creature, why not study my body? So, you're saying you're stronger than me? You think you can compare to me? You don't even qualify. If you don't believe me, come and try. As soon as the Blood Queen finished speaking, the Zombie King charged at her with incredible speed. But the next second, before he could strike, the Blood Queen punched him right in the face. Those watching were stunned. They knew the strength of the Zombie King, but they had not expected that he would have no chance to fight back against this woman. Then a loud boom was heard, and the Zombie King was sent flying, breaking through a wall and crashing into a wall. As he came to his senses, damn it, she hits as hard as Zombie did. Just then, he noticed the explosive device that was strapped to Professor Jamie and instantly dashed toward it. Since you all are so arrogant, then die, he exclaimed, and with a fierce punch, he hit the nuclear device. But just as the nuclear device was about to explode, the Blood Queen suddenly waved her hand towards it. The device, which was about to destroy everything, miraculously returned to its original state. Those watching were completely dumbfounded. The Blood Queen suddenly let go gently, and the nuclear device immediately crumpled towards the ground. Along with it, the Zombie King was instantly flattened into a pancake. Those watching the fight were beyond shocked. This woman is too strong. You dare to challenge Zombie with such little strength? After saying this, the Blood Queen casually lifted her hand, and the next second, she was holding the Zombie King in her grip. How did Zombie deal with you before? Hearing this, the Zombie King was startled, then showed a look of fear, because he once again felt the same terrifying aura as Zombie had. He then cried out in terror, "You and Zombie are both monsters of the previous civilization." After saying this, his eyes darkened, and he was scared to death again. At that moment, the Blood Queen's gaze returned to normal, and she nonchalantly threw the Zombie King's body, now like a dead pig, onto the ground. Poor Zombie King was, once again, scared to death. Seeing this, the chief and the Iron Club president were dumbfounded. On the other side, Professor Jamie and the green-haired subordinate were also speechless. Respected Professor Jamie, do I now qualify to be your vessel? Hearing this, Professor Jamie first paused, then held a sinister face. Of course. Meanwhile, in H City, Violet hurriedly rushed into the city hall. Seeing this, Ago quickly stepped in front of her. You can't go in now. Our king is in a special condition. What special condition? Is there anything more important than my issue? After saying this, Violet pushed the door open while shouting loudly, "Zombie, there's bad news." However, she was startled by the sight of Zombie before her. When did you change like this? Really? Sometimes changing the way you live can be quite interesting. Also, what were you about to say? Upon hearing this, Violet hurriedly relayed the news of Professor Jamie's escape, but then, Zombie interrupted her, saying he already knew. How could you fools possibly stop Little Red? Hearing this, Violet was startled. How did you know? This just happened less than 10 minutes ago. Because Little Red used the power of her bloodline. I knew as soon as she made a move. This left Violet completely baffled. What the heck is the power of bloodline? After that, she prepared to report this incident to the headquarters, but Zombie suddenly embraced her and said, "Since you're here, don't rush off. How about we have dinner first, and tonight I can show you the night view of H City. How about that?" This made Violet's hair stand on end. What night view? Don't think I don't know what you did to Inspector Chin that day. I don't have time to play with you right now. Violet then turned around, ready to leave H City quickly, but just as she reached the door, Zombie spoke again. "Aren't you curious about how to use the bloodline power?" These words made Violet stop in her tracks. Then she turned back and asked, "You can use that bloodline power too?" Hearing this, Violet was reluctant, but in order to obtain useful information, she reluctantly agreed to the date. The scene shifts to the chief, who is being rushed to the emergency room. Quickly call the department head, or the world will change. In order to discover the secrets of the bloodline power, Violet ultimately accepted Zombie's invitation for a candlelit dinner. But just after Violet learned the method of using the bloodline power, Zombie suddenly sat still and didn't move. What should I do if I can't change back after using it? Say something. However, before she could finish speaking, Zombie had already transformed into his first form. Violet instantly became angry and grabbed Zombie. Can't you finish a sentence before turning back? I gave up something so important to go on a date with you, and you only finish half your sentences. Change back now. I never said you had to accompany me. You came on this date voluntarily. This statement from Zombie completely infuriated Violet, who then turned to the chef nearby and demanded, "Where are your chilies? Bring me a kilogram right now." All the chilies in the city have been confiscated. The scene shifts back to the Blood Queen, who has finally put on a set of modern clothes. At this time, Professor Jamie took them to a laboratory. "This is the first time I've seen such an abnormal body. It simply defies science. You guys aren't just messing around. Can Zombie's genes really be used? Don't mess up our queen's body. Rest assured, you have to trust Professor Jamie's research. He is the smartest man in the world. We've done similar experiments before. Although your queen is not human, there shouldn't be any problem in my lab. The only thing missing now is Zombie's genes." Hearing this, everyone was momentarily stunned. "You're not thinking of us going in front of Zombie to pluck his hair, are you? Don't worry, I'm not stupid enough to send you to your deaths. So what should we do? Zombie won't just show up on his own." As soon as this was said, the Blood Queen sitting nearby curiously looked towards Professor Jamie. However, Professor Jamie did not speak. Instead, his assistant, the green-haired subordinate, pulled out a jar of green liquid from his clothes. "This little matter we can handle. The bottle contains Zombie's genes." The group was shocked at this revelation and quickly asked the green-haired subordinate how he had obtained it. It turns out that not long ago, a girl had acquired Zombie's genes, and a spy had secretly drawn a tube of blood from her. Spies can be quite useful. Then we can start the experiment now. And so, after a few months of calm, Jean Lanchi was visiting the chief in the hospital for the second time. "Before I passed out, I asked you to send out the message. Did you do it? Don't worry. As soon as I got the news, I immediately sent a satellite communication, and it was marked as a red-level emergency. But you're all really useless. There were so many of you and voice-activated nuclear bomb. How did it end up that a woman rescued him? That woman cannot be explained by science. The bomb was about to explode, yet she forcefully suppressed it." At this, Jean Lanchi's expression turned serious. "All right, it seems this matter is beyond our control. I think the department head should have received the message by now." Meanwhile, in some underground ruins, some anachronistic objects appeared. The exploration team couldn't help but exclaim in amazement. But just then, one of the team members received an urgent message and immediately stepped forward to report, "Department head, there's an urgent situation that requires your personal attention. The humans had discovered an advanced underground ancient city." Just as the department head was preparing to continue the exploration, a corpse sitting at the main gate suddenly caught their attention. Seeing this, the people showed expressions of disbelief. Could this really be an ancient human body? It looks just like us now. This person has 134 fractures throughout the body, as if crushed by some monster. The most terrifying thing is, all human tissues have been completely incinerated, which is why it has been preserved for 1,000 years. It's essentially just a shell, with no real research value. It seems like a great battle took place here. It's unexpected that even with such advanced technology, it couldn't prevent destruction. Recently, the Beyond Earth's Academy recruited a skilled president who captured Professor Jamie, but for some reason, the newly captured Professor Jamie has been rescued again, and the chief has been severely injured. Upon hearing this, the department head immediately turned around and declared he was heading back. But just then, a scientist discovered something strange and curiously touched it. The next second, the previously quiet machine suddenly began to vibrate loudly, and countless blue lasers started converging towards the door, eventually forming a human figure. Machines damaged for 1,000 years can still function. I never expected to meet a human with such strong physical form. Department head, be careful. It's just a projection. What's there to fear? I can make you even stronger, as long as you promise to defend human civilization with your life. But before it could finish, the department head interrupted. "Protecting humanity has always been my duty. I just want to know why your civilization came to an end." However, the projection did not respond with words, but instead projected a strange human face above its head. It turns out that more than 1,000 years ago, the Earth was not like it is now with only 2 continents. Back then, Earth had 7 continents and 8 oceans, and there were over 100 countries. People sought to become stronger, so they integrated all resources, leading technology to reach the pinnacle of its era. The advancement in armed mechs and starships. The technological level achieved an unprecedented height. Aliens were no match at all, and as for those underground monsters, even less worth mentioning. Any one of our mech warriors could easily annihilate them. Yet such an advanced civilization was ultimately destroyed, and by a zombie, no less. Hearing this, the group was visibly shocked. They had not expected that the entity that destroyed the civilization of the last century was the seemingly dorky zombie in front of them. Seeing this, a subordinate couldn't help but step forward. "Department head, isn't this guy just fooling us? The ancients would not joke about this kind of thing. And haven't you noticed that zombies have existed in this world ever since we were born? Didn't we establish all these academies to fight against the zombies? Although we've always been suppressing them, we could never completely resolve the issue. Could it be because of this zombie here? Since this zombie is so terrifying, how should we deal with him? My time is running short. The civilization of our our time was too focused on the development of technology, whereas your generation has taken a completely different path. It turns out that cultivating the physical body can also reach such heights. As soon as he finished speaking, the door behind him suddenly started spinning, and a golden arm appeared before everyone. The projection declared that this arm was the pinnacle of technological achievement at that time. After saying this, the figure began to flicker and crackle, clearly running out of time. Just at the last moment before disappearing, no matter what kind of races appear in the world, only zombies are our greatest enemy to humanity. Seeing the mysterious golden arm before him, the department head quickly instructed his subordinates to store it away. He saluted the now gone projection. Rest assured, predecessor, we will protect this world from now on. Let's go. The equipment here is no longer of any use. Are we going to look for the guy in the video now? The department head retreating to the outside. Let's deal with Professor Jamie first. After all, the world is so big and there are so many zombies. It would be like finding a needle in a haystack to look for that one. Meanwhile, in H City, Violet also received news that the department head was returning. The department head is coming back. He called everyone for a meeting, and you should go too. Hearing this, Zombie was momentarily stunned. Who is the department head? Why do I have to go to a meeting? At that moment, in a certain laboratory, Professor Jamie muttered to a petri dish. It's done. Finally succeeded. The greatest research in history is about to be born. However, while Professor Jamie was still immersed in his joy, Lan Ling, hiding on the side and holding a coin, couldn't help but complain, living a life of hiding here and there, and now we're almost too poor to afford food. Thinking of this, Lan Ling could not help shed 2 lines of sad tears. Just then, a subordinate leaned in. Don't be down, brother Lan Ling. We are noble vampires after all. Why not start some side business to make some extra money? What kind of side occupation can we do? Robbing a bank. I noticed a bank on my way here with slow-working staff and sluggish movements. With our skills, we could resolve the fight within 10 seconds. As long as we move fast, they won't be able to catch us. Once we have money, we won't have to live such miserable lives anymore. The more Lan Ling thought about it, the more excited he got. All right. Soon, a subordinate walked into the office and reported, Department head, all the presidents have arrived, and we can start the meeting now. Hearing this, the department head quickly put on his helmet and then followed the convoy to head for headquarters. However, just as Zombie was arriving in Guangzhou City for the meeting, his hometown H City was targeted by a few mysterious individuals. Lan Ling crouched on the street. Why hasn't it started yet? No sooner had he finished speaking than a van pulled up in front of him. Seeing this, Lan Ling hurriedly called his subordinates to get in the van and then grab the equipment. Is everything ready? We must ensure it goes flawlessly. At that moment, a subordinate leaned in. Don't worry, I've already scoped out the place, and this is the time when there are the fewest people around. Remember, we are professionals at robbing banks. After saying this, the group grabbed their equipment and rushed towards Zombie People's Bank. Meanwhile, in the finance department, Blackie, holding a cup of coffee, asked, have the financial statements for the past 2 months come out yet? The total income for H City over the last 2 months amounted to $435.6 billion. Go through the accounts again. As the king's most trusted subordinate, I must ensure there are no discrepancies in H City's finances. But just as he finished speaking, thick smoke began to rise from Zombie People's Bank not far away. It turned out that Lan Ling had finished the robbery and was now feeling in a van. When Blackie heard this news, he was momentarily stunned. Who dares to rob in H City? At that moment, in front of a 5-star hotel, Lan Ling was laughing loudly in the car. We finally have money. But just then, an angry voice suddenly rang out from behind him. Lan Ling quickly looked back through the car window, and upon seeing Blackie, he shivered in fear. Oh no, it can't be him. Then he returned to the car and asked, you damn fool, which bank did you rob? I don't know. I can't read. It seems we robbed Zombie People's Bank. Hearing these words, Lan Ling immediately felt like dying. Then he cautiously peered out the car window again. This glance was so frightening that Lan Ling's face twisted in horror. When Lan Ling saw that it was Blackie chasing them, he was startled and immediately urged his accomplice, drive faster. That guy is Zombie's most mysterious subordinate, recruited in the year 800. But before he could finish speaking, Blackie had already leaped into the air, and with a bang, his punch hit a skyscraper. In the next second, cars within hundreds of kilometers began to float. Seeing this, Lan Ling and his gang were stunned. This is too exaggerated. But before they could think further, Blackie's gaze had already locked on them. Knowing they couldn't escape, Lan Ling flipped onto the roof of the car. You guys go back and report to the queen. I'll hold him off. Lan Ling then tried to provoke Blackie. We're both stewards. I want to see how stronger you can be. But before he could finish, Blackie had already punched him fiercely. You think you can compare to me? You're not even in my league. Blackie then punched him so hard he flew away. The other 2 accomplices were stunned. How can even Zombie subordinates be so strong? Meanwhile, in the headquarters hall, city chiefs and presidents from various places had all gathered. Just then, the department head finally arrived. Hello everyone, I've fully understood the matter about Professor Jamie's escape. But before that, I have something to show you all. He then instructed his subordinate to bring out the golden arm from the ancient city. Seeing this, everyone looked puzzled. This arm was something I stumbled upon in the ancient city. It represents the pinnacle of ancient technology. As soon as he said this, everyone present was shocked. With ancient technology, couldn't we easily handle Professor Jamie and that strange woman? We don't need ancient technology to deal with them. I have someone else in mind to confront. According to the ancients, there is a terrifying monster on our planet, and it was this monster that wiped out the ancient civilization. Hearing this, the Iron Club president was momentarily stunned. Department head, are you serious? What kind of monster could exterminate an advanced ancient civilization? Just as the department head was about to earnestly explain how dangerous this monster was, Zombie approached him, looking thoughtfully at the arm. Why does this thing look so familiar to me? So where might this monster be? The department head admitted he wasn't sure. The ancients had only shared an image of the monster before they completely vanished. Just then, Zombie looked up. So, how are we supposed to use this golden gauntlet? This device is simple to use. Just wear it on your hand and press the button in the middle. So, we need to find this monster quickly and eliminate it once and for all. Upon hearing this, Zombie immediately agreed. I'll definitely help. But at that moment, the department head felt as if he had forgotten something and quickly scrutinized Zombie again. This blatant scrutiny made Zombie somewhat embarrassed. Damn it. He then hurriedly reached for the golden gauntlet in the center of the room. This action left everyone present with puzzled expressions. But before they could think further, a figure suddenly flew towards the building they were in from a distance. With a loud bang, the figure blasted a hole through a building and continued hurtling towards the conference hall. As the dust settled, it turned out to be Lam Ling, who had been punched away by Blackie. Seeing this, Violet and Jean Lanchi were completely bewildered. However, at that moment, another figure shot from the sky, landing with a thud. It turned out to be Blackie in pursuit. Seeing Lam Ling, who he had knocked into the building, Blackie still felt unsatisfied. Your Majesty, save me. At this, Violet noticed Blackie outside. Isn't that Zombie's underling? What's he doing here all of a sudden? Hearing this, Zombie was taken aback. Why has Blackie suddenly become so reckless? Just then, one of the department head's aides reported, attention, the individual outside is not human, but a zombie. Seeing a zombie and still daring to strut in here, the presidents, who are the pinnacle of human combat power, couldn't hold back any longer and at all jumped onto Blackie to attack. Damn Zombie, you know where you are? You're too arrogant. Before the Iron Club president could finish speaking, Blackie kicked him in the mouth and then punched the chief, who was still recovering from injuries, next to him. In an instant, both were sent flying by Blackie. Seeing this, Dawn and Violet were stunned. Why do we always encounter characters of this level? It makes us humans look so useless. Just then, Blackie in the air suddenly released a large amount of black particles. You dare to obstruct my work. What the hell is this? Violet, standing behind, also shouted in horror, don't touch these black substances. However, just as everyone was unsure what to do, Zombie flashed in front of Blackie. With a bang, Blackie took a solid punch from Zombie. With his punch, Blackie immediately lost the ability to fight. Not only that, the powerful force of the punch even sent Violet and the others flying back. Seeing this, the subordinates were astonished. Department head, this new president is too powerful. However, hearing this, the department head nervously put on the golden glove. I didn't expect this guy to be so terrifying. It seems the ancients really didn't lie. Just then, Zombie dragged Blackie to the rooftop nearby. Realizing what was happening, Blackie was confused. Your Majesty, why are you here too? You can't kill these humans yet. After all, they gave us this city. But before he could finish, a black dot suddenly appeared in the sky. The next second, this dot turned into an unnatural total solar eclipse. Seeing this, everyone showed expressions of disbelief. The entire world turned pitch black. This unusual phenomenon caused panic among the people. Soon after, another figure appeared in the sky. It was the fully evolved Blood Queen. At that moment, the department head, who had activated the golden glove, also noticed the anomaly in the sky. It's that woman. She kidnapped Professor Jamie. The Blood Queen in the sky chuckled. Zombie, come out. I am invincible now. Several figures suddenly appeared nearby. Seeing the newcomers, Lam Ling cried out in distress. Someone please help me. But the Blood Queen's subordinates had just charged into the conference hall when they were suddenly blown away by the department head with a bang. The two subordinates received their final dues, crashing into separate buildings far away. I advise you not to meddle. There's going to be a big fight here. Get the civilians out quickly. The department head immediately swung a punch at the Blood Queen, but the punch was avoided. The mere ant dares to strike at me. At this moment, the Blood Queen was completely furious. She kicked the department head on the chin with her long legs. Seeing this, Violet and the others were completely shocked. This woman is so powerful. It seems even the department head is no match for her. On the other side, Blackie also watched the battle in the sky. Your Majesty, it looks like they have started fighting. But Zombie simply extended his hand. Let them fight their fight. It's none of our business. In the instant they clashed, the Blood Queen kicked him away, followed by a loud boom that echoed around. But when the smoke cleared, the department head was unharmed. At that time, the eclipse in the sky also gradually dissipated. I'll deal with you first, before I get rid of Zombie. Big talk for a mere human. Thinking you can take on Zombie? Hearing this, Violet and the others were taken aback. Why does back to Zombie again? Just then, the department head suddenly activated the golden glove. Energy began to gather towards the center of the glove. Seeing this, the Blood Queen was not at all flustered. Instead, she dashed towards him with great speed. Soon, two figures flew flew towards each other like arrows. Just as they were about to clash, the Blood Queen clenched her fist in haste, while the department head focused all his power into his golden arm. Then came a loud boom. At the center of the explosion, with a crack, the ancient golden glove was crumpled like a tin can. The department head was then blasted into a tall building with great force. However, the department head was still hanging on. Seeing this, the Blood Queen couldn't help but frown. At this time, the department head, holding his broken arm with the crumpled golden glove, couldn't help but complain. What a piece of junk ancient technology. I might as well do it myself. In nearly 1,000 years, you are the strongest human I have encountered. Had you been born 1,000 years ago, it's uncertain who would have died. Unfortunately, you are no match for me now. The Blood Queen instantly appeared in front of the department head, but just as she was about to deliver a deadly blow, at that moment, Violet suddenly appeared behind her. With her blade ready to strike, a terrifying red aura surrounded her. The Blood Queen hastily dodged the attack. This terrifying strike left the Blood Queen in disbelief. Violet rested the sword on her shoulder. Your opponent is me. Seeing this, Zhang Lanqi was shocked. Oh my god, how did Violet suddenly become like this? On the other side, Dawn also instantly transformed, swiftly capturing the Blood Queen's subordinate. This scene left the department head in disbelief, as he had not expected Violet's strength to suddenly increase so much. On the other side, Zhang Lanqi and others were completely stunned. Don't underestimate us. She broke free from Dawn's grasp and created distance by flipping backwards. This move left Dawn momentarily stunned, not expecting her to escape from her hands. You think you can trap me? Don't treat me like a weakling. Really? Then I'd like to see what you're made of. The vampire sister then rushed towards her, but before she could strike, she was kicked in the chin by Dawn. Then she bent down to gather strength and rushed towards the vampire sister in the air. Dawn caught the vampire sister with another punch to the face. Seeing this, Zhang Lanqi and the others were shocked. When did Dawn become so strong? After landing, the vampire sister quickly flipped over, and with the blood in her hand, she created countless clones in the air. But before she could act, she was kicked again by Dawn. At this point, the vampire sister was speechless. Is this person even human? Meanwhile, on the other side, the Blood Queen quickly swiped forward. Seeing this, Violet hurriedly drew her own sword. The next second, the city of technology behind her was split in two. Was Violet always this strong? At that moment, the Blood Queen sneered, so you've been enhanced too, but I don't have the time to waste on you. Go bring Zombie out to me. With that, she activated her bloodline power. Instantly, a terrifying aura burst forth from her body. However, Violet showed no intention of backing down. I know I'm no match for you, but if you think that's all it takes to challenge Zombie, then I'd advise you to forget it. Hearing this, the Blood Queen was momentarily stunned, but before she could ponder further, Violet suddenly covered her face and burst into laughter. Let me show you something fun. The second form. After saying this, the skin on Violet's face began to crack and crumble away. Seeing this, Zhang Lanqi and the chief were dumbfounded. What is she preparing to do? Violet suddenly roared towards the sky. The next second, countless waves of purple energy radiated outward from her. This terrifying energy nearly blew away the chief and others, and even the Blood Queen was in disbelief. All because, at that moment, Violet had transformed into another form, not only growing a pair of sharp horns on her forehead, even her facial features had turned into those of a demon's skull. Is she still human? How did she turn into this terrifying form? The Blood Queen, also in disbelief. You've mastered the bloodline power too. Downstairs, Zombie, who was watching, was speechless. On the other side, Dawn was also stunned. The Blood Queen was infuriated. She started mumbling in anger. Are you contemplating your life? I feel like there's no need for useless words between us. As soon as Violet's words fell, the Blood Queen jumped above her. However, facing her sudden attack, Violet was unfazed. As the Blood Queen was about to strike down with her weapon, Violet quickly drew her sword. The moment the blade was unsheathed, Violet used her own blood to enhance it. With the upgraded red blade swung out, the Blood Queen was instantly sliced in half. Following that, Violet accelerated in an instant. The next second, countless slashes appeared on the Blood Queen's body, and the slashes were so fine it even cut her cells into pieces. The Blood Queen was cut into nothingness. Everyone was stunned by Violet's display of power. When the aide reported that Violet had destroyed every cell in the Blood Queen's body, the chief suddenly shouted in horror, "Impossible. This is totally against reason." Hearing this, Zhang Lanqi furrowed her brow, deep in thought. As for the department head, the pinnacle of human combat power, he had no words. Despite this, Violet showed no sign of relaxation. She looked back into the sky. I know you're not this frail. Could it be you are planning a sneak attack? Clumps of blood in the sky started to converge and condense. Flesh and blood started to reassemble. It wasn't long before the Blood Queen reappeared unharmed in front of everyone. Seeing this, both the chief and Iron Club president were dumbfounded. Are they even human? Red is getting serious now. Saying that, he and Blackie decided to change their location. At this point, Violet still spoke nonchalantly. Dimwit told me you are a millennium-old monster, and truly, you cannot be judged with normal logic. Hearing this, the department head was momentarily stunned, but just as he was about to react, the golden glove in his hand, which had already deformed, suddenly started to react. On the other side, Zombie with Blackie had already reached the best spot to watch the battle. At that that moment, the Blood Queen raised her hand, and the next second, the previously clear sky instantly turned cloudy. Violet was not at all panicked. She even posed in an attacking stance. "We're not done yet." Violet whooshed up to the sky. Seeing this, the Blood Queen quickly drew her blood sword, and the next second, a high-rise building was sliced into a dozen pieces. Those sliced buildings were headed straight towards Violet, but facing the rapidly approaching debris, Violet simply raised her hand, and the giant obstacle was sliced in half. Just then, the Blood Queen suddenly appeared in front of her, taking Violet by surprise and punching her in the face. Violet no longer held back her strength, gathering all her power and swinging at the Blood Queen. The next second, the immense blade energy actually split the city in two. Seeing this, Jean Lanchi and another were so frightened that their style of drawing changed, and even Zombie couldn't help but be amazed. Despite this, the Blood Queen was not injured at all. She's still not dead? Meanwhile, the department head was currently facing a big problem. The golden glove he was wearing could not be taken off. Just then, Violet landed on the side of a building, but before she could steady herself, the Blood Queen charged at her and kicked her in the chin. "Don't think that activating your second form is something special. In front of me, you are nothing." At that moment, the Blood Queen raised her hand to gather a burst of energy, and the next second, Violet crashed into a skyscraper. Then her long sword was hurled into her, pinning her to the building. Jean Lanchi and others were beyond shocked. However, as the two of them fought back and forth, something strange happened to the department head on the other side. "What the hell is wrong with this glove?" While the department head was confused, some golden energy suddenly appeared in his blood, followed by a voice in his mind. "Your body, I'll be borrowing it." This voice was that of the ancient person from the ancient ruins. Meanwhile, Violet, who had been knocked out, finally came to. She pulled the longsword out of her chest. "I may not be able to stop you, but what can you really do to me?" Seeing Violet's monstrous power level, Jean Lanchi grabbed Zombie's clothes and shook him around. "I want to become like them too," but Zombie declined her, claiming it was too violent. However, just then, a loud boom suddenly came from afar, causing everyone present to be momentarily stunned. What was that sound? The chief looked up at the sky with a face full of terror. It turned out that at this moment, enormous mechanical limbs had appeared in the sky, accompanied by a terrifying laughter. "I have finally revived." With a booming sound, a giant mechanical foot stomped down and flattened a city, leaving the people inside dumbfounded. Just as everyone was still trying to comprehend, another loud boom occurred, and the building Zombie was on was reduced to rubble. Seeing this, Zombie hurriedly bounced around the ruins, saving the presidents who couldn't evacuate in time. But just after he threw everyone out, the mecha in the sky suddenly reached out to grab him. Once it had Zombie in its grip, the mecha quickly clenched its fist. However, at that moment, the Blood Queen suddenly flashed in, and Violet hurriedly followed her. Unexpectedly, the two of them whooshed onto the top of the mecha's head. The department head started to regain consciousness. "What exactly are you trying to do?" "Sorry, Junior, for the sake of a better future for humanity, I have no choice but to sacrifice you." As his words fell, a brand new mecha battle suit covered his body. Seeing this, the chief couldn't help but break out in cold sweat, and the stainless steel chief was so frightened he couldn't even speak. Just then, Violet on top suddenly noticed something in the mecha's hand. It turned out that Zombie was currently being held in its grip. Seeing this, the Blood Queen and Violet hurriedly charged at the ancient being, but their combined attack was easily neutralized by the ancient being. With a whoosh, they were both bound by the ancient being. "Just the study of Zombie's genes has taken us several centuries, and you two women use it as a stimulant. How superficial." At that moment, under the pressure of the mecha, Zombie activated his second form. With Zombie performing a 360-degree spin on the spot, the mecha's fingers also started to rotate, and it even affected its entire mechanical arm. Seizing this opportunity, Zombie jumped up, aiming to smash its head. But with a boom, the mecha's other arm smacked him down. From a distance, the ancient person spread his arms. 1,000 years. Finally, the day has come. Watching Zombie struggling, the ancient person was thrilled. "What are you waiting for? Show your ultimate form." As soon as his words fell, Zombie slowly opened those seemingly harmless eyes. Zombie had activated his third form. With a boom, the mechanical arm was instantly flung away by Zombie. Seeing this, the Blood Queen's eyes widened, but the ancient mecha showed no sign of fear. "Are you looking down on me, you damnable monster?" Zombie did not have any words to say to the ancient being. At this moment, Jean Lanchi, watching from the ground, was dumbfounded. What the hell is all this? Then Zombie suddenly accelerated, whooshing towards the top of the mecha's head. Seeing this, the ancient person coldly snorted. The hatch of the mecha slowly opened, and rows of robots began to emerge. Is this ancient technology? At this moment, the chief and Iron Club president were so frightened they dared not breathe. However, these seemingly strong robots were like paper in front of Zombie. With a tearing sound, the robot was instantly ripped in half by Zombie. As more and more robots appeared, Zombie clenched his fist to gather strength, and then with a loud bang, those robots were instantly turned into scrap metal by Zombie. At that moment, the ancient being tapped his fist. "Why are you not using your full strength? Are you still looking down on me?" Right after his words fell, several giant mechas emerged from rifts in space. "Isn't that too exaggerated? I saw it on the last night before the end. This is not your true form." These words made Zombie Zombie pause, but before he could think deeply, the giant mecha charged its fist at him with a boom. The wind pressure from the giant punch destroyed half of the city, while Zombie was blasted all the way to the moon. Although the blow dazed him, it did not cause him any harm. At that moment, the department head inside the ancient being suddenly became defiant. Look at the mess you've made. Is this the outcome you wanted? Shut up. I must eliminate Zombie this time. Then he teleported the giant mecha to the moon. At this moment, people like Zhang Lanqi on the ground were beyond shocked. Zombie suddenly dodged to the side, avoiding an attack by the giant mecha, then jumped on the spot and appeared in front of the mecha. Seeing this from Earth, the chief exclaimed in awe. At that moment, Zombie suddenly bent in the air to gather strength. In the next second, he fiercely punched the mecha in the eye. With a series of bangs, the ancient mecha immediately collapsed on the moon. At this moment on the Earth's atmosphere, the ancient being was also in shock. I've reviewed Zombie's records. Not only has he managed H City exceptionally well, but he has also generated hundreds of billions in tax revenue for us, and on several occasions, he has helped humanity more than once. I want to know, why can't we coexist with him? Shut up. He looked up at the moon. Don't we also wish for peaceful coexistence? But look at his current state. Does he look like he can coexist peacefully? Originally, zombies were supposed to be just a weak group, but somehow, this guy popped up, and now the fate of our human race depends entirely on his mood. Do you think we can allow such a creature to exist in the world? Therefore, if he's not one of us, he must be annihilated. As soon as his words fell, the mechas in space began to reassemble again. The ancient mecha not only successfully restored its original state, but also acquired a glowing long sword in its hand. Divine punishment. The next second, all the mechas in space began to move. The moon was simultaneously pierced from multiple locations. Then a great surge of energy was blasted towards Zombie. Despite this, Zombie was unharmed and even scoffed disdainfully. Sometimes, bigger isn't necessarily stronger. Hearing this, the ancient being immediately felt a great sense of crisis. But before he could react, Zombie suddenly raised his hand and snapped his fingers loudly. In the next second, all the ancient mechas shattered in response, and even the entire moon trembled. Such a terrifying sense of oppression made Zhang Lanqi very uneasy. This place is no longer safe. Quickly evacuate the nearby citizens from here. Back to the action. Zombie was in front of the ancient being, and then came a powerful punch that smashed into the ancient being's face. The powerful force immediately knocked him into the deep sea. But it didn't end there. Zombie then plunged his hands into the ground. Meanwhile, the presidents in the city were evacuating the citizens. Just as Zhang Lanqi, holding a baby, was preparing to evacuate, the ground beneath her suddenly trembled. It turned out that Zombie was ripping apart the earth with his hands. Seeing this, everyone showed expressions of fear. With a crack, the area in front of Zombie instantly split open, and immediately everyone felt like an earthquake. Zombie exerted great force. In the next second, the ground around him was forcefully torn apart. Instantly, a great fissure going to the horizon appeared in the center of the city, and seeing this, the chief was stunned, and Zhang Lanqi accidentally fell into the fissure. Despite this, the fissure continued to extend, and even the sea was split in two. On the other side, Iron Club president hurriedly saved Zhang Lanqi. However, at this moment, Zhang Lanqi witnessed an unbelievable scene. The ancient being who had been smashed into the sea suddenly was revealed. In the next second, Zombie punched him, smashing him into a mountain. Junior, this is the destructive power of Zombie. However, before he could finish speaking, a tsunami suddenly arose from the sea, revealing the fourth form of Zombie. Seeing this, the department head was shocked. What kind of creature is this guy? Violet was also confused. How can Zombie transform again? The Blood Queen beside them could not believe it. How have I never seen this before? Yes, the face I saw before everything was destroyed. He then accelerated and flew into the sky. Watching Zombie, now fully unleashed, Blackie suddenly cried out in horror. It's over, it's over, that ancient being is doomed, and rushed away to find safety. The ancient being in the sky laughed loudly. I have waited 1,000 years for this battle. But before he could finish, Zombie suddenly raised his hand, and the next second, the ancient being's armor instantly shattered. Zombie clenched his fist, and the ancient being was crushed into a ball. Just then, a beam of energy shot straight into the sky, instantly turning the ancient being into scrap metal. With the ancient being's control gone, the department head was finally freed from his shackles, though by then his life was nearly spent. The department head is going to die. But just then, Zombie snapped his fingers at the department head, and the next second, his cells began to regenerate. Seeing this, the chiefs were dumbfounded, and the Blood Queen beside them was in disbelief. Violet also widened her eyes. It can even be like this. At that moment, the department head suddenly came to from his unconscious state. When he looked at Zombie, who had acted to save him, he finally understood why the ancient being was desperate to kill him. It was because Zombie was too powerful, a kind of power that was deeply terrifying. The onlookers on the ground were beyond shocked. Just then, Violet suddenly appeared in front of Zombie. It's Violet. How's it going? Is the bloodline power useful? Zombie now back to his original form. Useful my ass. Look at what you've done. We don't even have a home anymore. It turns out, Zombie tore the earth with his bare hands, instantly splitting the ground, and due to this event, even caused the southern continent to shift over by 130 kilometers. Just like that, 2 months quickly passed. Since humans had evacuated before the battle, they weren't greatly harmed. However, the reconstruction of their homes was entirely left to zombie citizens. In the office at this moment, the department head was looking at the data in front of him and fell into deep thought. The documents displayed the complete data of Zombie from his first to his fourth form. Inspector Chen walked in with a cup of coffee. Department head, did you need me for something? You mentioned your last visit to H City. How about this? Go buy some eggs later, and then we'll pay a visit to the new president of H City. Meanwhile, on the other side, the Blood Tribe's new city was also gradually starting construction, and Lan Ling was in charge of this project. Brother Lan Ling, where did you get the money for this? Hearing this, Lan Ling broke out in a cold sweat. It turned out all his money was loaned to him by Blackie. The king had said it's better to lend them money directly rather than letting them rob banks and cause trouble. According to the 20% interest rate, they would need to work for us for at least 300 years to pay it off. Truly, a dreadful capitalist. As for the Blood Queen, at this moment, she was essentially scared into seclusion by Zombie. She hadn't expected Zombie to have a fourth form, and doubted she could ever defeat him in this lifetime. She would unwillingly shed tears as she mourns her chances at defeating him. And so, Zombie's wish for zombies and humans to coexist was finally realized. But what he didn't know was, deep within an underground city left by an ancient civilization, a man suddenly approached the corpse of the ancient being. Unexpectedly, this person was the long-missing Professor Jamie. Zombie, just you wait. As long as I'm not dead, I will never give up.